really are.
A bill that is designed to hurt the American people.
It would cut by nearly 50% funding for medical research.
To take away nursing home care from millions of our seniors.
There's more than $1 billion of cuts to veteran benefits.
I'm voting no.
I will be a hard no.
Vote no, hell no.
I am even more hell no.
Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate.
You don't have the votes. See, Republicans, your little evil budget plan might have worked if you hadn't forgotten that one Senator Schumer is Charles in charge of the Democratic Party. I'm afraid your diabolical scheme has been foiled.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer set off a firestorm heading into this weekend when he changed course and announced he would vote to move forward on a Republican-backed funding bill.
Republicans had the votes. What the happened?
I will vote to keep the government open. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country, to minimize the harms to the American people.
You probably got a little something out of this, didn't you, old C-shoe? You wouldn't have given up that powerful leverage on the budget for nothing. My guess is Chucky got some cheese.
Did Schumer get anything from Republicans in exchange for those dumb votes?
He did not.
You're out there. How much is it? $5. How about I give you $7? Like, what are you doing? And for those of you who may have felt like this was a total capitulation, Senator Schumer just felt like this wasn't the moment for Democrats to press their case because Trump is still too strong.
When he went below 40% in the polls, the Republican legislators started working with us. He was at 51. He's now at 48. We're going to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it until he goes below 40. When it happens, I am hopeful that our Republican colleagues will resume working with us.
You're going to keep at it. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And what? This was it. This was the it that you would have been keeping at. Don't you have to start it to keep at it? Apparently the grand plan is Dems keep fecklessly complaining until the 48 approval comes down to 40. Which is a plan, but it's forgetting one crucial piece of information in Schumer's popularity calculation.
Devastating, cascading poll numbers for Democrats. Only 27% of voters have a positive view of the party, the lowest favorability rating in the history of NBC's polling.
Yep, as you just heard, the Democrats are historically unpopular. Can't say I didn't see this coming. And if you listen to the show and actually listen to the show and pay attention, you would have seen it coming as well. The Democratic Party's favorability rating has hit a record low according to a CNN survey released last Sunday. The survey showed that 54% of American U.S. adults say that they have an unfavorable opinion of the Democratic Party, while 27% say they have a favorable opinion and 16% say they have no opinion at all. This represents a shift from early January, before President Trump was sworn into office for the second time, when 48% of the survey respondents said that they had an unfavorable opinion of the Democrats. 33% said they had a favorable opinion, which seems like really positive now. And 17% said they had no opinion at all. In late October, ahead of the last election, the 2024 election, a survey of registered voters included 51% of respondents with an unfavorable opinion of the Democratic Party, while 39% had a favorable opinion and 10% with no opinion. So they've actually gotten less and less popular since the election, which was only like 6 months ago. The year before, in October 2023, a survey showed that 50% of U.S. adults had an unfavorable opinion of the Democratic Party, while 37% had a favorable opinion and 11% no opinion. Meanwhile, the Republican Party's favorability rating remains unchanged from January at 36%. So they're not way better, but they're pretty much cooking with gas in comparison to the Democrats at this point. While the unfavorable rating has ticked up from 44% to 48% in the March survey. So in October 2024, 49% of unregistered voters had an unfavorable opinion of the GOP, while 40% had a favorable opinion. In October 2023, 52% of U.S. adults had an unfavorable opinion of the GOP, while 35% had a favorable opinion. Now, when was the GOP's or the Republicans' record low favorability? That came in September 2017 during the start of Donald Trump's first term in office, when 29% of the public had a favorable opinion of the Republican Party versus 62% having an unfavorable opinion. One thing, again, a lot of people did not notice, but I told you guys the most popular Donald Trump ever was is when he passed those tax cuts for the rich in his first term. When the Trump tax cuts came, that was when he reached his record high of unfavorability. Now, instead of seizing on that, the Democratic Party instead squandered the opportunity and started talking about, impeachment, about the phone call with Ukraine, with Zelensky, and all this other nonsense. But it goes back to an overall unwillingness to do what it takes to win. Now, the Democrats' sliding favorability appears to be fueled by party members souring on the party and its leadership. As I've said for many, many years, the Clinton, Obama, Pelosi wing of the Democratic Party is toxic. The mainstream corporate Democratic Party is toxic. There is a reason that Bernie Sanders was the most popular politician in America for like 6 or 7 years in a row. And Bernie Sanders ain't charismatic like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton. And he doesn't have the same level of, he doesn't have the history-making appeal that Obama had or Hillary Clinton had. Bernie Sanders is popular and still remains very popular if you look at polling in comparison to the Democratic Party, because he talks about things people care about. But because the leadership of the Democratic Party, Chuck Schumer, and, the Joe Bidens, the Kamala Harris, all these people are owned and controlled by Wall Street, and they're owned and controlled by AIPAC. They're incapable and unwilling, they're unwilling to follow up on the things that the public actually wants. And they are leading their own party towards obsolescence. Now, they are maintaining their spots, their slots, but it is at the expense of the people. Now, in a recent survey, 52% of surveyed Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents say the party's leadership is taking the party in the wrong direction, while 48% say they are taking the party in the right direction. Now, a lot of this comes behind Chuck Schumer and a lot of Democrats choosing to lay down and play dead and vote for Donald Trump's continuing resolution bill to keep the government open. He's saying this is basically real politic. We're not doing the moral thing, we're doing the politically correct thing. And I don't mean politically correct in terms of political correctness. I mean the thing that will help benefit us politically more than anything else. But where he and a lot of the Democratic leadership gets it wrong is that they've called Donald Trump everything but Godzilla. You can't revert to politics as usual and do real politic and just say, well, this is just collateral damage, when you've literally told us this man is Hitler for the last decade now, almost. This man is a fascist. He's the worst person in the history of the world. You can't go back to politics as usual at that point. Which is why I've always been very critical of the Democrats and their framing of Donald Trump. if Donald Trump is as bad as you say he is, then anything is justifiable. Just like if he's Hitler, then it would be sort of unforgivable to not say that we should assassinate Hitler. If you think he's going to inevitably destroy America and bring hell on earth, then it is completely unscrupulous to just say, oh, we're going to do politics. And we're going to do political maneuvers. You don't do political maneuvers against Hitler. Which is how and as I've told you guys many times, they don't believe that. If they truly believe Donald Trump was everything they say he is, they would be pretending and behaving in a totally different way. They called him a Russian agent and said he's controlled by Vladimir Putin. But then they voted in favor of reauthorizing Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which gave him and Jeff Sessions, who was his attorney general at the time, unlimited surveillance power over Americans. Why would you vote for that if you truly believe this man is owned by a foreign government? It was approved by 50 Democrats. 50. This is what makes their strategy so dumb. You can't do politics as usual when you've told your base that this guy is the worst guy in the history of the world. There's too much inconsistency there with your messaging about Trump. Oh, Trump's the worst thing that's ever happened to this country, but you were all friends with him up until a decade ago. Bill Clinton told him to run for president. Chelsea and Ivanka were best friends that grew up together. The Clintons invited him to the White House 30 times in the 90s when they were in there. Bill Clinton and Donald Trump regularly played golf together. You can go online easily, just Google it, find countless pictures of Donald Trump and Bill Clinton golfing together with Playboy playmates and everything else. They told you, oh man, what he said about the Central Park Five was the worst thing in the history of the world. But they all continued to take his money and be friends with him for 25 years after he said all that about the Central Park Five. You think they didn't know about it? It was in the New York Times. So this is how you know that they don't believe what they are saying. And this is why they, the party leadership, needs to be defeated or completely overthrown. Politics as usual ain't gonna work in this situation, folks. Really isn't. You ain't gonna just be able to real politic your way out of this and just write off collateral damage. Well, whatever happens. No. Your acts have to match your rhetoric. And your rhetoric has said that this is an unprecedented evil. This is an unprecedented threat. Okay. Okay. If it's an unprecedented evil, unprecedented threat, then your actions have to match that. And if they don't, then I'm sorry. No. It's on me. It's all good, bro. Sorry, we had a guest here in the studio. Yeah, if your rhetoric is saying that this is an unprecedented threat, then your actions have to match that. And it is not. Sorry, they're not matching that. So, of course, you're going to be imminently impossible. It's going to be pretty impossible to maintain a certain level of popularity if you're not going to match what you're saying with what you're doing. And so, hey, you know, the hypocrisy is obvious, and ultimately the leadership is paying the price. Before we go to a break, I want to play what Charlemagne the God had to say about this situation. I always find him very, very emblematic of how the average person thinks. He thinks the way the average person thinks, you know, and he's able to. One thing I'll say about Charlemagne ain't afraid to ask Joe Biden questions. He ain't afraid to ask Kamala Harris questions. He's not afraid to ask Republicans questions, Democrats questions. He'll say whatever. He'll say whatever. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with him, but he will say whatever. So this is him and the Breakfast Club talking about the historically unpopular Democratic Party. We'll be right back.
Never mind that the bill is terrible. Chuck Schumer, you said the bill is very bad. You said the Republican bill is a terrible option. You said it's not clean. You said it's deeply partisan. And the most important part, it doesn't address the country's needs. So on one hand, the government shuts down. And the other hand, a terrible bill passes that doesn't address the country's needs. So it sounds to me like regardless of how this goes, working class Americans get screwed. Typical. Okay, Democrats get pushed around and bullied into doing the Republicans' bidding. Typical. The party of inaction. The Democrats have failed to protect the interests of the American people. And you know why, Dems suck at messaging? Because they never talking about nothing. And they do nothing. So guess what? To me, they all got to go. Like Dems don't just have a messaging problem. They got a leadership problem. The Chuck Schumers of the world, the Hakeem Jeffries, they should all step down. And any Dem who isn't fighting for the people and standing with the party should be primary. Like, how can you say the bill sucks, but you're passing it anyway? Like, you're not going to even try to, present something different. Right. Try to negotiate nothing. It sucks, but we're going to pass it anyway.
Yeah, that's been the commentary. Basically, I think a lot of the world agrees with you on that because it just seems as though the Democrats can't come together on anything.
Nothing,
so
ever.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. No. What's the point of voting for them? Like, literally.
Well, hey, all right. You have to be a Republican. When you going to come out and just say, I'm a Republican?
What that got to do with being a Republican? Anything I just say,
you just stay ishing on Democrat. Like, earlier today, you was like, "What's the point of voting for them?" So it's like,
if I vote for a party and I support a party and I expect the party to go in there and fight for me and I voted for them and fight for the American people, you damn right I'm gonna be on their ass.
Know what I'm saying? Like, you can't stand these people. Like, you literally hate these people. Like, this is crazy.
He going on Republicans and he going to Democrats. He going on everybody. Equal opportunists.
I do hate people who are not fighting for the American people but claim to be fighting for the American people. You're absolutely right.